My 33 female husband, 36 male, may have cheated on me with my dead best friend and had an affair baby? Plus update. Original post. I don't even know where to start. The past 6 months have been an absolute mess and it only seems to be getting worse. My best friend since elementary school, who I'll call Alice, passed away in February from cancer. She had a 2-year-old daughter who went into the custody of her mom, Alexis, after she passed away. Last month, Alexis showed up on our doorstep unannounced, telling my husband he needs to take responsibility for his child and either take custody or start finally paying child support. She says that Alice had told her when her daughter was born who the father was, but didn't want anything to do with him. To answer the inevitable, Alice was a traveling nurse and made a lot of money, which is the only reason I can think of for why she didn't go for child support. During this conversation, my husband had the worst panic attack he's ever had, so we had to end the conversation before I could get more details. My husband's story is, I don't even know. He said that Alice's daughter is probably his, but that it isn't what I think. Almost 3 years ago, we threw a large housewarming party as we just moved into our dream home, after I finally finished residency and was set to make real money for once. Alice was in town and set to be at the party, but I was called into work before she got there. I didn't get back until after 3 a.m. Party was winding down, my husband was passed out upstairs and Alice has already left the party, which at the time I did find strange as we hadn't seen each other in months. My husband claims he woke up in the middle of the night to Alice on top of him, but he passed out again before he could say anything. He claims he never told me because he was worried I wouldn't believe him, which I don't know if I do. He showed me some texts he sent his best friend the next day asking for his advice about him thinking someone violated him. But if he cheated, he could have had that conversation as evidence, especially since he never said Alice specifically. Ever since the party, he has been very distant with Alice, and after she had her daughter, he would even find excuses not to be around the house when she would visit at all. I don't know if that's because he cheated, or if Alice did actually violated him, and this was his trauma response. Honestly, Reddit, I don't know what to do. I've known Alice since we were children, and she had never come across as that kind of person. But I've also known my husband for over a decade, and he's not once ever given the inclination of a cheater. He's an attractive guy, and I've seen the looks he gets at the gym, and he's never even given more than a glance. What the heck should I do? How do I figure out what the truth is here, when Alice isn't even around to defend herself? She never even implied she liked my husband, let alone want to sleep with him. I told my husband he needs to get a DNA test before anything is decided on the child's part. But in the meantime, he needs to move out while I think about what I'm going to do here. Now for the top advice before reading the update. I don't know you or your marriage, but I think I would be inclined to believe and support my husband with a few details you've given. Yep, I would 100% give husband benefit of the doubt, especially if there's no DNA test. Would it be any less different if the genders were reversed? Last thing, which do you think should take to the grave? That she had an affair with, or she your husband? I hadn't thought about that actually. Thank you. That's a good point. She always thought I could do better than him. So if it was an affair, you would think she would have told me on her deathbed at least. Yeah, OP, I don't know you, your husband, or your best friend, but for him to literally send a text asking about is telling. Only a narcissist manipulator would come up with that kind of excuse for cheating. Since he doesn't seem to be that, I would genuinely believe him. Wow, OP, that is a mess. Paternity test for sure. The old text the next day sealed it for me. I think your friend took advantage of your husband. Good luck. This is the story of the day for me. I'm glad the top comments are all so understanding this time, because I've seen really similar stories on here where people absolutely crap on a woman in the same position. Basically, she cheated, dude. You need to dump her, no matter what the circumstances are. His reaction screams trauma response to me. Not being believed is a victim's worst nightmare. It's hard to be rational with these types of events, but could she have slipped him something? Did she have a history of one-night stands? Could they have been extra chummy because you weren't there and they were drinking? I find it odd she specifically asked about him the first time the baby was over, and that she didn't approve of him. On what basis? Lawyer up and then paternity test. Can you have a calm and collected conversation with your spouse that you want to believe him but you're also a mess emotionally and that you need a mediator together? Therapist. But mostly lawyer up now. I'm so sorry you're dealing with this. She was very free-spirited and loved to regale me with her stories of being out on the road. She was very pretty, so you can imagine she didn't do without when she wanted. As for them being chummy, I would have said no if you'd asked me in June. He was always nice to her, but she didn't like him much. I find it odd she specifically asked about him the first time the baby was over and that she didn't approve of him. On what basis? She knew I dreamed of being a doctor and was going places in life, while my husband, from all outward appearances, doesn't work that kind of job. He does contract work for companies and a government in project planning. She figured I could and should have done better. Lawyer up and then paternity test. Thank you, I appreciate it. My husband is dealing with the DNA stuff and should be contacting a lawyer as well. I'm not sure yet on a therapist, but I'll likely need one eventually. Now for the update. After talking with you, I've come to the realization that my husband is being truthful. My best friend forced herself on him. Several people pointed out that with Alice not liking my husband, if it was an affair, she would have told me when she was dying, if only to separate us. You're absolutely right. I was there in the room while she passed. I held her hands for days. We talked about so much. If it was just an affair, she would have told me. But if she violated my husband, she wouldn't have said a word. That's the type of thing horrible people take to the grave. I've also come to the realization that I made a terrible mistake asking my husband to leave for a few days while I gather my thoughts. Not to make excuses, but losing my best friend to cancer, a long cancer fight at that, was brutal. To say that I was devastated wouldn't do it justice. That it happened only 6 months ago, I'm still feeling it every day. So to have this thrown on me, it's like I'm losing her all over again. Either she betrayed me and slept with my husband, or she betrayed me and my husband. Not only have I lost her, but now I've lost the good memories, an entire lifetime's worth. It was impossible for me to look at him and not also see her, and be stuck with the horror and realization of that loss all over again. I felt I needed to be able to break down, grieve, and think without the fresh wave of loss I got every time I saw him. It was wrong of me to ask him to leave. You're right though, and as of a few minutes ago, I've righted this wrong. I called my husband. I apologized, told him I believe him, and begged him to come home. He'll be here in half an hour at most, and I'm going to support my husband the way I know he would have supported me. I've been an off and on Reddit user for several years, and sometimes the advice given on subs like these can be a bit hit or miss. But today you guys did good. You've helped me realize not only that I was wrong, and being stupid at that, but that I was hurting the person that needed me the most. I was selfish. I have no idea what we're going to do as far as the potential daughter is concerned, but I assure you we'll deal with it together. It's going to take a lot of time, and probably a lot of therapy, to grieve this new loss. I feel numb now, as though I'll never cry again. My best friend violated my husband, which means she was no friend of mine. She flaunted it, coming to my house, sitting with me and gabbing. She brought her child here, trying to rub it in his face right in front of me. She tortured the man I loved, and I was an unknowing party to it. I feel sick to my stomach over how many times she came over, just to hold it over him. I'm honestly at a loss on how to make that up to him. If you all have any ideas, please feel free to give them to me. I think I'll need all the help I can get. Tomorrow, I'm going to take a leave of absence from work, just until we can figure out our next steps, and we can get our heads on straight. Thank you, everyone. Last story. Update. I, male 28, know that my son isn't mine, but my wife, female 26, doesn't think that I do. I've been married to my wife for 3 years and together for 5. Our son just turned 2 in early June, and to put it bluntly, he looks biracial. His skin is darker than I thought it would have been. He has curly hair when we most certainly don't, and his features just don't look like the standard white people which we are. He's such a beautiful boy, he just doesn't look 100% white. I asked my wife a few days after his birthday if she thought our son looked white. She said yes, and asked if I'm accusing her of something. I said no, because I genuinely wasn't. I just was wondering. I know genetics can be weird sometimes. We fought, and I apologized, but I wasn't able to shake the feeling. So I did a crappy thing and got a test done behind my wife's back. The results came in a few days ago, and I'm not my son's dad. I feel conflicted about my son. I love him, but knowing that he isn't mine is leaving a sour taste in my mouth. Our son definitely prefers me and he's my world, but he's just not biologically mine. I don't know what to make of my feelings. I'm a mix of emotions about my wife. I don't know how to talk to her. I'm angry, confused, and feeling very, very betrayed. I'm heartbroken too. I still love her. She's working at the moment and I don't want to disturb her at her office, but I feel like I'm going to explode. This is all very difficult for me to process, and I can't think of when my wife cheated. We always had each other's locations for safety purposes, and I can't think of any suspicious friends that she has or had. We go on regular dates and our bedroom is a den. We were also trying for a baby around that time, so I don't know when she cheated on me or why. Ever since we married, she's been over the moon, constantly showing off her ring and talking about me. She's like a teenager in love. How do I tell her that I know, or get that ball rolling? I don't know what I want to do yet, as stupid as that sounds. I've been stewing on it for a few days, but I still love her so much. Maybe someone can knock some sense into me? I need help. Now for the top advice before reading the update. Just say, I had a paternity test done and it shows I'm not his father. That ought to start off a conversation. Take it from there. Yeah, that's a good icebreaker. You place the results of the test in front of her and you say, we need to have a conversation, and go from there. You could express your concerns about baby being switched at birth and request your wife obtain a test to ensure. You didn't want to say anything to her unless it came back as it did. Let's hope it isn't like another Reddit person who found out their child was swapped at birth. That was a ride. This is where you need to be strategic, not emotional. I'd get a second test, just to be sure. And I might even have the kid tested against her DNA, if you can obtain it, as it would rule out a hospital mix-up. Super rare, but it does happen. Then talk with a lawyer and probably pull half of any shared accounts before confronting her. Yes, check with a lawyer before yanking money. The reality is, either person on a joint account can empty it. If you are reliant on a partner who has been proven scientifically untrustworthy, take steps to protect yourself. Yep, if she cheated, the level of deception she had to pull off to try and pass a biracial child off to two white parents is astronomical. OP, do a second test and plan before you confront. Does he actually know her ethnic background though? Because most people assume that I am white, but my father's family is Puerto Rican and my abuelita is biracial. Her mom was black. One of my cousins had a biracial-looking baby, even though she looks white, and her husband is actually as white bread as they come. It's rare, but it does happen. Genetics are wild, and they aren't necessarily passed on 50-50. We had something similar happen to a family friend. They appear white, but when they had a baby, the baby wasn't white appearing. But the baby was 100% theirs. Turns out, way back in the woman's family tree, a great-great-great-great-grandmother was black. But the genes were completely dormant for years. You mentioned that you were trying. Did you do any IVF? I just watched a documentary where a fertility doctor switched his sperm for any male patient's sperm. Also, there could have been a mix-up there. Also, someone said about a switch at a hospital. Give her the results and ask her to start explaining. Most importantly, talk to a lawyer and immediately start separating any and all financial accounts. As for the whole location being on thing, yes, someone can leave their phone in one place, while they physically go to another place and then come back to pick up the phone. So you can't rely on that. If you have will and determination, you can figure out anything. Edit. I'm becoming overwhelmed with the comments. I'm sorry. I wanted to reply to a few, but I can't. I just wanted to say thank you for commenting and that I also hope our baby was just swapped. As terrible as that sounds. Our baby didn't look biracial at birth. As he got older, he started developing features that didn't look entirely like ours. If our son's skin didn't darken over time, I don't think I ever would have questioned anything. The other features can be explained as a fun little surprise or a few generation hops maybe. I know that genetics can be weird. Now for the update. Getting the bad news out the way first. My son isn't mine. I feel devastated and will be divorcing my wife. My wife and I had talked about our son a few days after my post, and my wife cracked under the pressure. She admitted to cheating on me without me even mentioning the test I had gotten done. All I asked was if she really thought our son looked white. I mean it when I say that if his skin never got darker, I wouldn't have known. She cried a lot and begged for forgiveness and told me that we can all still be a happy family. But my image of her shattered right then and there. I'm going through heartbreak, so forgive any mistakes. I'm currently living with my parents. I asked her when she even found a time to cheat on me, and she told me that she would leave her phone in a location and use another. She told me that cheating was a mistake and an accident. But how was it a mistake if you had it so planned out? We were trying for a baby around then, and she told me that she couldn't handle the pressure of it all and just wanted to escape. She didn't escape very well if she still got pregnant and acted like we were perfect. Thank you again to everyone. My wife will now be known as my ex-wife. I apologize to anyone who had hope and thought it was a baby switched at birth situation. I'm somewhat happy it wasn't, because that would be terrible, but extremely disappointed because that means he really isn't mine. There won't be any more DNA tests because she admitted to everything and showed me some text messages. There won't be any more updates from me either because I just want to move on with my life. I'll get everything sorted and figure out the whole custody thing. Thanks again, everyone. Goodbye. If she left her phone somewhere so he wouldn't know she was elsewhere, that's not an accident or a mistake. It's just crappy purposeful behavior. Sucks for that poor kid. I hope things turn out okay for him and Opie. Very much so. It was a deliberate decision. It was a choice, not a mistake. It was only a mistake because she got caught. I asked her when she even found a time to cheat on me, and she told me that she would leave her phone in a location and use another. Cold and calculated. But it was an accident, like stubbing your toe. She was under a lot of stress. And I don't know about you, but when I want to relieve stress, I would create a deep, dark secret that would destroy my family if anyone found out. When I'm under a lot of stress, I can accidentally eat a whole bag of chips. Similar kind of accident, fewer consequences. Paternity fraud should be a crime. Careful, or you're going to get downvoted to hell by people who think that men's rights are a joke. But yes, it should be a crime. Mandatory paternity testing at birth. This will solve infidelity in bad hospitals that switch babies. There is no accusation of cheating as the guy has no say in it. It's just standard protocol. Like, it's not like you get angry going through TSA, essentially being accused of being a terrorist. Relationship advice. Update. I found out my 31 male, ex-wife 27 female, cheated on me while she was pregnant. Now she says I'm emotionally manipulative because I'm cold and distant during custody switches. Original story. I, 31 male, found out my now ex-wife 27 female had been cheating on me last year when she was 6 months pregnant, and the affairs happened before and during the pregnancy. She had reasons and excuses and didn't want to get a divorce. Says she wanted to stay together and do couples therapy. I just told her to go ahead and get therapy, but cheating was a deal breaker for me, so we got a divorce. The house was mine before we got married, so she moved back in with her parents, who had enough room to set up a nursery and give my ex the guest room. We agreed to an even 50-50 split custody. My wife has our daughter Sunday to Wednesday, and the original plan was for her to drop her off at daycare on Wednesday morning. Then my nanny picked her up around noon and brought her back to my house, where my daughter would stay with me until Saturday night or Sunday morning, depending on what worked best for everyone. Then my ex said she thought the daycare was misplacing some things she was sending in for her to bring to my house, because a few times our daughter came home short some bottles or without her binky. So ex said she wanted to drop our daughter off at our house directly to make sure all of her things get to me. She started picking her up from daycare on her breaks and dropping her off here. I work from home Wednesdays and Fridays. Even so, I'm working. When ex began dropping off Nadine at my house, it was normally about 12:30. My daughter's nanny, nice old lady from Barbados, not sure of her age, but I'd say late 50s to 60s, was the one to answer the door for my ex and take my daughter and her things since I was in my office working. Now, ex began saying she wanted to speak to me directly when she dropped off. She said she felt like she was unloading a lot on the nanny and didn't want her to forget to tell me anything. I would be lying if I said I didn't still have some resentment and anger towards my ex. I don't want my daughter to see that though. So when I talk to my ex, I try to be as emotionally even as possible. Just talk about the things that pertain to my daughter and no more. At today's drop-off, Nadine had a dirty diaper, so her nanny took her upstairs to change her. My ex asked me how I was doing, and I told her I was fine, thank you, and then began to walk back to my office. She sees herself out because she used to live there. As I was walking away, she says, I'm getting really sick of your crap. I didn't even get a chance to ask her what she was talking about when she just started freaking out, saying I was emotionally manipulating her by being cold and distant, that she shouldn't be punished forever for her mistakes, and how me hating her is the same as me hating my daughter. I let her finish yelling and then told her to leave. I think my best bet is to go no contact with her again and not see her for drop-offs anymore. But I was looking for some other perspectives or opinions on the matter if you might have them. Edit. I got a paternity test once I found out she cheated. My daughter is mine. Now for the top advice before reading the update. I don't know how no contact would work with even sharing of your daughter's time. Definitely as little contact as possible. Continue being a stonewall. You could say, you and I don't need to have an emotional connection. All we do is handle business with our daughter. Yeah, no contact aside from things that I have to do with our daughter. There is a free online program called Talking Parents, talkingparents.com. Courts utilize it in contentious family law cases. It's essentially an email chain. The benefits are, the time the message is sent is recorded. The time the message is seen is recorded. And messages cannot be edited or deleted. If your ex's excuse for modifying your parenting plan is that she wants to talk to you about your daughter, this is the solution. In the event you need to defend yourself / protect your reputation / protect your daughter, you just press print. Note, she isn't coming to your house to talk to you about your daughter. She wants to stop feeling like the bad guy, either by getting your forgiveness or provoking you into an emotional response, etc. You haven't taken the bait yet. Good on ya. Keep that up. It appears that your ex is hoping for reconciliation, trying to find ways to see you. Since that's not an option for you, returning to no contact is best. You'll need to get over her betrayal enough that you can be in the same room with her for your daughter's sake. But nothing more is required. I can still be in the same room and be cordial to her. I just don't want to make small talk and be friends. I don't understand what the problem is. You got divorced. You are under no obligation to be anything but cold and distant towards her, unless you change your mind about it. You just don't have to treat her in an active bad way, or in any way leading her to legally accuse you of any wrongdoing. And that's it. It's quite simple. My worry here would be her starting to lie and tell people you're being emotionally abusive or mistreating your daughter because you don't want a relationship with her outside co-parenting. Yes, that's what I'm worried about too. I want to keep things as civil as possible. And now for the update. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who took the time to comment their support, sympathies, and advice. I didn't get a chance to respond to all the comments, but I read and appreciate them all. There were so many great suggestions. Someone suggested a website called Talking Parents, which I believe is going to be a great resource for my ex-wife and I. The thing I need to keep reminding myself is that in 5 or 10 years, the negative and betrayed feelings I have for my ex-wife will most likely fade, but a hostile relationship between the two of us will impact our daughter forever. Because of this, I sat down my ex-wife and had a recorded conversation about our situation. I was very open and honest with her. I told her that I still had negative feelings towards her as my ex-wife, but as the mother of my child, I would always treat her civilly and respectfully, but we had to have boundaries. I told her that we are going back to the original plan, where she drops her off at the daycare Wednesday mornings, and my nanny picks her up in the afternoon. We're going to communicate through the website which items should be sent home with her, so the nanny can double-check to make sure she has everything. My ex-wife isn't happy. I think she was coming to my house in hopes of reconciliation, but I told her respectfully, but in no uncertain terms, that it was never going to happen. But I would love to evolve our relationship as awesome co-parents to an amazing little girl, and maybe one day, friends. Again, thank you to everyone who took the time to reply to my post. This community has been a wonderful resource for me. I hope you all have a wonderful night. You're a stand-up guy. I think you handled that like a legend. Not only a stand-up guy, but an awesome dad. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Your self-discipline and dedication to your daughter are commendable. She says you're cold and distant. Why should you care? Wish you the best, bro. Thank you very much. I honestly don't care about her opinion, but as the mother of the person I love more than anything else, I know keeping her somewhat pacified is what's best for our daughter. That's an incredibly difficult perspective to arrive at, and you have my, and clearly many others, respect for doing so. Stepping past your own hurt for the good of your child will make a bigger impact on the quality of both your lives than you can imagine now. While you have made healthy, mature, responsible choices here with respect to your daughter, please don't forget to put time and energy into helping yourself feel better when you can. That too will make you the best father you can be. That sort of delusion doesn't go away overnight. Expect her to weaponize the kid. That's why I'm trying to cover all of my bases. Staying civil and recording all communication. Yes, this. But you're doing all the right things. Don't let up at all. She's immature and vindictive. She's pissed you walked away with your head held high. Be aware, the chances are high she's going to smear you to everyone who'll listen. Also, pay attention to signs of parental alienation when the baby is old enough to understand. Your ex is petty and embarrassed that she messed up a good thing with you. Could you imagine going from being a married woman to being an ex-wife, now living in a guest room in their parents' house? It's easier to blame you than face your crap. Be accountable and responsible. Keep up the great work. Next story is titled, How Do I Sack My Bridesmaid and End Our Friendship After Her Constant Inappropriate Behavior Towards My Fiancé? I, 32 female, have a friend who we'll call Penny. I met Penny, 36 female, at work about 3 years ago. We quickly hit it off and became good friends. I was supposed to be getting married January this year, but obviously because of the pandemic, it didn't go ahead. It's now going ahead next January, and Penny is one of my bridesmaids. The problem is, I've seriously gone off Penny over the last year. I'm pretty sure she's a narcissist, and boy is she increasingly unpleasant to be around. She needs attention constantly, and I mean constantly. She makes absolutely everything about her, including my bachelorette party. She's a huge show-off. She gloats. She's competitive. The list goes on. She has insisted on taking over from my maid of honor and organizing my bachelorette, and has told her I have demanded things when I haven't because she wants them. However, the main issue is that she acts totally inappropriately towards my fiancé. We both spent some time with her this weekend, and the list of inappropriate comments, touching, and just general behavior is endless. It makes my fiancé feel uncomfortable, and obviously makes me feel angry and upset that she clearly thinks this is okay. She gets embarrassed to be affectionate towards each other, and she tries to get in between us when we do, by trying to physically push her way and saying she wants a hug because she's happy for us. My fiancé had to tell her to stop. She tried to play footsie with him underneath the table, leaned across and stroked his face and told him she's missed him. The two have met a handful of times, and my fiancé is very quiet and reserved, so they haven't really spoken much, and my fiancé would not consider her a friend. Trying to hug him, the list goes on. The first time she met my fiancé, she texts me as soon as we got home saying, "Don't worry, I don't fancy him," which I thought was very strange. She then added him on Snapchat and told me, if you're wondering what the Snapchat I've sent to him is, don't worry, it's just a normal selfie with my daughter. I said to her, why would I wonder what you've sent him? And she didn't respond. Very bizarre. The second time she met him, he came to pick me up from Penny's house. The second she heard his car pull up in the driveway, she physically pushed me out of the way, ran to his car, flung the door open, and literally jumped on him and hugged and kissed him. I was so confused. This continuing behavior, coupled with her constant need for attention and validation, is really wearing me down. We're both sick of it, and I find it really disrespectful. I have no idea how to broach this with her, as I am really terrible at confrontation. And to be quite honest, the thought terrifies me. We also have quite a few friends in common, and I'm worried they will side with her and think I'm overreacting. Please help me figure out how to sort this. As I mentioned, I work with her, so I don't want things to get too awkward. I am also quite confident that she will gaslight me and say it's just the way she is with everyone, and my fiancé is one of her best friends, etc. This is definitely not true. At the heart of all this is one issue. You and your fiancé have a person in your sphere of friends that make you both uncomfortable because of her actions. That's as simple as that. No one else gets to say who the two of you include in your wedding party. Secondly, if you and your fiancé are firm in your beliefs and accurate in your examples, ask yourself this. Are people who won't support our decisions, which are grounded in reality and based on true events, really our friends? That's a nice way of saying, if they choose her, you really do come out ahead in this matter. The answer for you is to nip this in the bud and just tell her directly her behavior is off-putting and inappropriate. And as a result, you can't be friends with her. This isn't a negotiation. There's no reason to give her an audience. You and your future spouse don't want her around you. This isn't a negotiation. There's no reason to give her an audience. I second this statement. No negotiation or giving or receiving of explanations are necessary. Imagine how she'll act at your wedding. I wouldn't put it past her to object during the ceremony and then claim she was just joking. At your reception, she'll insist on dancing with your fiancé, and then she'll try to kiss him again to congratulate him. She knows exactly what she's doing. She is not your friend. Tell her that her behavior has made you and your fiancé very uncomfortable, and she's no longer welcome at your wedding and you need space from her. Don't hang out with her anymore because she's escalating, and one of these days she might go even further. She'll cry and try to guilt you. She'll beg your fiancé to intervene. She'll rant about you to your friends. But she's trying to steal your fiancé. You have to stand up for yourself and your marriage. If she won't listen to you, your fiancé may have to be the one to tell her to back the hell off. God. That reminds me of the OP whose fiancé has a friend object during their Catholic wedding, which forced the priest to call it off. They were specifically told not to do it for that reason, but the fiancé and friend thought it'd be funny. Everyone got mad at the OP because she was pissed and was reconsidering her marriage. Sounds like this lady would love to do the same thing. Now for the last story. I, 23 male, turned down a friend who asked me out, 24 female, because she wasn't there for me in the past. This is causing issues and I don't know how to proceed. A few years ago, I was in a relationship which was highly toxic, but I didn't realize it until near the end. I was emotionally mistreated, gaslighted, occasionally slapped/hit, and a few times my ex-partner forced herself on me. I didn't realize it for what it was at the time. I assumed because she got me ready. I must have wanted it, among other excuses. But I eventually realized how messed up it was, and looked for help. One of the people I first went to for help was a friend of mine, Jenny, not her real name. Jenny and I went to the same university, and she volunteered for some groups on campus that helped to educate people about bad relationships, how to identify horrible traits, and so on. These events were only really attended by women at the time. I tagged along to some of these to help out because I thought it was a cool thing she was doing, and this is how I figured out that I was in a horrible relationship at the time. Jenny had been talking to a few other girls just to support them through their own issues, so I went to her to ask for help. After I realized that I needed to get away from my ex. I told her what was going on, but she didn't really help. At first I got the feeling that she didn't exactly believe me, but eventually she said something along the lines of, "I'm sorry, but I'm really only helping out other girls. It's a much bigger issue and I need to focus on that." At the time I was really hurt because I thought we were pretty close friends, and I felt like she basically ditched me, but I don't know. She sent me a few links for organizations to talk to, but basically refused to discuss it any further with me. I found help elsewhere and got over it, and we remained friends through that. It was strained at the start, but now things are mostly back to normal. The issue is, a week ago she asked me out. Turns out she's had a crush on me for a little while, and after her most recent breakup, short-term relationship, she decided she would confess, I guess. While I'm happy being her friend, I don't think I could ever see her in a romantic light. I asked her for help and she basically shut me out, and that just makes me feel like I could never be emotionally intimate with her. After I rejected her, she wanted to know why. I dodged the question for a bit, but eventually told her and she basically went, "Really? That's why?" and seemed sort of offended. Now she's acting cold to me, and some of our mutual friends have also been giving me weird looks. Some of my other friends, including 2 who helped me through my last relationship when Jenny didn't, have been really supportive though, thankfully. How am I meant to navigate this now? I just want things to go back to normal and forget about it, since it's bringing back some pretty and pleasant memories. It'd be fine if everyone just forgot about it, but judging by how Jenny and some of our other friends are reacting, it doesn't look like that's going to happen anytime soon. Now for the advice. You turned her down for a legitimate reason. And if she reacts negatively to it, and she convinces her friends to react negatively to it, doesn't that prove your decision correct? I think you're right, yeah. I just want to brush it aside since I don't want to deal with any confrontation or bring anything up again. But you're right. Thanks. 1. She ignored you when you reached out for help regarding your relationship. 2. She refused to take no for an answer when you rejected her and pushed for a reason. 3. She's now talking crap behind your back. Opie, you didn't just dodge a bullet. You dodged a whole freaking howitzer. Hold your head up high, you legend. Your reason for turning her down is totally legitimate. But here's the thing. No matter the reason you turned her down, she isn't entitled to a date with you. You said no, and that's all she deserved. It seems Jenny would be just as toxic as your ex. Perhaps this isn't a friendship worth saving. I'd remove the perhaps. It's not a friendship worth saving. Let that friendship die. Because she's probably just as toxic if she couldn't understand your reasoning for saying no. And your other friends, explain to them what's happened, and if they don't accept it, then throw them away too. You were mistreated, and she refused to help you. Even though you were in the same situation as the females she was helping. That's messed up, and you don't need a friend like that. That seems like a perfectly legitimate reason to say no. She volunteered at a thing to help people in these kinds of relationships, and when you asked for help, she told you that she wasn't interested in helping you? How could you feel secure with someone who didn't have your back when you needed them? It's probably not going to go back to normal. Maybe she's embarrassed that you shut her down. Maybe she's kicking herself for not helping you when she had a chance. It doesn't matter in the end. Either talk to the mutual friends and find out what she said, or find some other friends. That's exactly how I feel, yeah. I don't think I'll talk to the friends. I don't want to. If they want to know what's happening and ask me, I'll explain it. But I don't really feel up to reaching out and having to explain myself, since they'll inevitably end up in telling people what happened. Thank you.